You're listening to Coming of Cage, a Nicolas Cage podcast. Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome back to the Coming of Cage podcast. I am your host, Derek, and I've got my co-host and partner in crime, Ryan, with me.
Hello.
Hey, Ryan. Happy New
Hi.
Year.
Happy New Year, 2023. Here we are.
2023. It's crazy. It feels like just less than a year ago we started this show.
It feels like it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when did we start the show? I don't even remember. I don't think we've had our actual 1 year anniversary yet.
No, we haven't. That's the joke.
Oh, okay. Well, nobody will get that unless they're paying attention. So
that's true. To the diehard Coming of Cagers out there, they
know
what's up. But since it is like this is our first episode of 2023, I thought we could just real quick maybe say our the movies that we like the most and the least that we have covered so far on the show. We've had 16 episodes prior to this, so 16 movies to choose from. And Ryan, do you have a favorite out of those 16?
Yeah, I think I do. I think it was, if you've listened to the episodes, if you listen to every single one of our episodes, there's one that I was not expecting to enjoy nearly as much as I did. Moonstruck. Because I had never seen it before. I know that's kind of a travesty, but I'm very glad I watched it. It was just a lot of fun. And Cage was just chef's kiss. It was just wonderful. What about you, Derek?
That's nice. So yeah, I mean, like if we're going off of, kind of your take on that, then I'm going to go with one that surprised me, one that I had not seen before, that I really typically wouldn't like this kind of movie. And that's The Family Man.
I knew you were going to say that one. You did enjoy that movie.
I did. And like, while I didn't score it the highest on quality over the course of the show here, it really kind of struck a chord with me personally. And it was just a really pleasant surprise. It's a nice holiday movie. I really liked it. I really did. It's kind of
Is it going to be one of your Christmas / holiday / Hanukkah traditions? From now on, you're going to watch it every year?
I don't know about that necessarily.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But, the wife and kid have a say in it,
Sure. So. But they're not there all the time.
I mean, you'd be surprised.
That's true. If you know Derek, you know that they're there all the time.
All the time. But yeah, okay. So now what about your least favorite, or dare I say, is there one you truly disliked?
Well, I mean, my heart is telling me Zondelay, but my body's telling me Cotton Club. They're currently in a battle.
Interesting.
Well, so Zondelay was just really like, if you listen to the episode, I don't need to recap everything, but it was just really bad and uncomfortable to watch. But at least like it kept you watching because of how bad and uncomfortable it was. But whereas Cotton Club, I just like falling asleep after about 25 minutes of it. So there's just nothing there that really gripped me, so to speak.
That's fair. I mean, the Cotton Club certainly isn't one of our higher scored films. I was going back and forth between Zondelay for the same reasons, you were saying, and Dog Eat Dog, which is what
Dog Eat Dog is pretty low too. Yeah.
I think push come to shove, I would say Dog Eat Dog. Wow. Because it doesn't have any of the quirky charm that Zondelay has in a few moments with like, Judge and Cage together and those horrible New Orleans accents that they're putting on. Like there's just some fun silliness to Zondelay that Dog Eat Dog does not have. So
no, but it has some like weird trippy moments that Zondelay doesn't have. So
true, but I think push come to shove, if I have to watch one of those two, I'd rather watch Zondelay than Dog Eat Dog. I think.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So there you have it. Our favorites and least favorites. Ryan went with Moonstruck as his favorite, The Family Man for me, and then the bottom of the list is what, The Cotton Club for you, and Dog Eat Dog for me.
Sure. Yeah, that works.
Okay, there you go. But, we covered some other films. We covered 12 other films throughout the year. So please go check those out if that is of interest to you. We kicked things off with The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent when it just came out in May last year is when we covered it. So, all right. This week, however, we are kicking things off in 2023 with Stolen. Stolen is the movie that we are covering from 2012, starring Nicolas Cage, Akerman, Malin Akerman, Josh Lucas, Danny Huston, and Sami Gayle.
And I expected this to be like a Taken ripoff, and it was to an extent, because this movie kind of came out, or what, I don't remember what year Taken came out, but there was like a rush of movies when that movie came out with its success, even though I didn't really find that one particularly great either. But yeah, a bunch of different movies featuring all these like aging action heroes came out, trying to recapture the success or appeal of Taken. And I expected this one to be like it. It was less by the book like Taken than some of the other, because we've watched at least one other one that was also one of the like a Taken ripoff.
A little bit. I think that was Rage, where his daughter supposedly gets killed by some gangsters.
No spoilers. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that one. I probably would say was closer to like the actual Taken plot line than this one. This one has similarities for sure, and the name is kind of, I mean, subtle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was less like Taken than I thought it would be. So that's good. That's a plus, I guess. One of the few you'll get.
Yeah, so the quick synopsis is a former thief frantically searches for his missing daughter who has been kidnapped and locked in the trunk of a taxi. And to add a little bit of context, a taxi in New Orleans on Fat Tuesday, because that's just the bad luck of our protagonist, William Montgomery.
Right.
So, yeah. So this movie is directed by Simon West, who also directed Nic Cage in Con Air, by the way, and written by David Guggenheim, who wrote both of the Christmas Chronicle movies. So,
wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Definitely like less Kurt Russell in this movie than those movies.
A lot
less Goldie Hawn.
Yeah, that too. I think they both would have improved this movie.
I think they couldn't have made it much worse. So, yeah. Man, I there's no movies that have Kurt Russell and Nic Cage in them, that I can think of at least, which makes me sad.
That is a little sad. Yeah.
Someday.
There's still time.
Yeah.
Expendables 6.
That's true.
All right. So Ryan, you took some notes, probably.
I did. Yeah, I did. And this movie, I'll just say right out of the gate, was not very interesting. I didn't think. Maybe you disagree, Derek. So like there's definitely going to be like, I usually try and get at least something from like each major scene or like each scene that, so that we can kind of recap the movie, just scene by scene. But this one, there were just like some scenes where just literally nothing interesting happened. Or I wasn't sure why it was there, or, I don't know, like nothing to drive the plot actually happened. So,
this was
it'll be a little bit everywhere.
This is a weird movie for me because in the moment I found myself like stressed out at certain times for Will, Nicolas Cage's character. And then in retrospect, as I'm thinking about the movie and finding more and more problems with it, not to say I didn't find certain problems in the initial viewing, but more opened up over the last 20 hours or so as I've been thinking about it. So it got me like in the moment.
You enjoyed it less as time went on.
Yeah, exactly. In the moment, I was like, this is like high stakes. I'm like,
I will say that this kept my attention better than a lot of the other movies that we've watched. Some of the Outcast, Cotton Club, like I mentioned before, some of these have been very dry, and I don't do well with dry. Like you could call some of them artsy. I would say Cotton Club's kind of an artsy movie, but this one definitely was more like actiony and like kept going. So it was definitely an easier watch than some of the other movies we've watched.
Yeah.
And there's 100% less racism that I noticed, which was good, and less homophobia.
But there was a lot of like sexist, misogynist
there was misogyny, yeah.
In the beginning of the movie.
We have to take what we can get, Derek.
Specifically. But it was like, it was so, what's the word I'm looking for? It was just so over the top. in the beginning of the film. You know how there's like there's basically like a prologue because we watch Will get, you know, arrested. Everything up until then, right? You've got what's the guy's face? Hoyt is just like the absolute. Somehow he is still like the worst person in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think, though, before we dive into this, I think this is another prime example of Nic Cage's character is an ass, but everybody else is worse. So he looks like the good guy.
Better, which is pretty right. Yeah, that's pretty common in these movies.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are some big plot points that I want to talk about that may at some point that maybe my notes didn't quite cover. So we'll have to remember to get into that because I don't want to forget them.
Okay.
But okay, so right in the very beginning of the movie, we get another trope from these Nic Cage movies where a guy just starts walking in the middle of the street.
For a moment, I thought it was him, just for a brief moment.
No, his silhouette was much larger, unless Nic Cage was in like something to make him appear bigger.
Well, that was the thing. I was like, why does it? I thought he looked funny, but you know,
yeah.
I just thought it was Nick for a moment.
So basically, this whole prologue is him with three other people setting up a heist. It's him, it's Malin Akerman, and then this like crazy ass dude that's clearly going to be the villain. Like, you know it immediately because he's like literally a mustache. He doesn't have a mustache, so not literally, I guess, but he acts like a mustache twirling villain the whole time. You can definitely tell he's evil, and there's no redeeming qualities throughout the whole movie.
None at all.
And then there's another guy that doesn't really do much throughout the movie. So yeah, Hoyt. Yeah. He doesn't really do anything except get killed. But yeah, so they go through this whole heist in the beginning of the movie, and literally, this is kind of where the sexism started for me. Malin Akerman does nothing. I don't even think she has a line for like the entire prologue until the very end of it. She says something to somebody, but she literally just bobs her head and smiles at Nic Cage, and that's the entirety of her character. And realistically, through the movie, she does not get any more than that. She does team up with him later, but she doesn't bring any skills to the table or anything that would make you think, wow, he definitely picked the right person to go on the heist with.
No, because like, and to be very clear here, she doesn't talk in the beginning, but she's in every shot because they're in this van.
She's in the back of the van, yeah.
Yeah, so she's there. She's actually in the center of the screen.
Yeah.
Right? And they're just talking around her the whole
That's why it stood out to me the whole time, because she's just literally looking at Nic Cage and smiling and like giving him the eyes.
And yeah, she does say a couple of things to Hoyt because she ends up just her and Hoyt because she's I guess the getaway driver initially. And you know, he makes a couple of all of anything he says over the radio is done with just like ridiculous sexual connotation and terminology when it's just like grotesquely unnecessary.
Yeah.
You know, like it just got kind of like
uncomfortable.
Less uncomfortable and more of just like, all right, can we move on? Like, okay, we get it, you know. And she calls him out for it at some point in a sarcastic way, and it doesn't really go anywhere. And yeah, that's it.
I'll say that starts right now, and that whole, not the sarcastic or the sexy, you know, sexist comments, whatever, but her uselessness throughout the whole movie and just ability to be there to be eye candy or whatever, it continues through the whole movie. Literally the only thing she does the whole movie that is of any import to the group is that she pulls solid like chunks of gold that has solidified that was liquid out of water.
Yeah, she helps him carry some of the equipment.
Yeah, that is the only thing you see her do throughout the movie. And so you don't really like, you're just kind of left wondering, why is she there? What she clearly doesn't have. If she had some skills specifically, you would think they would have utilized those skills, but they make no qualms about not using her in any way that's interesting, except to have a woman on the screen.
Yeah, it was kind of like they decided, you know, Hoyt and Vincent, they're going to be bad guys. So we need somebody for Will to work with in this. So we'll just make it an attractive woman.
Yeah, and she's going to be so good, and like, you know, basically she's going to have no issues at all throughout the movie. She's just a good person that's caught in a bad situation, and she's going to be like the beacon of light in this movie. She's like the only one that is not worse than Nic Cage.
No, she actually seems to be doing quite well. She's you know, working in a
gone
nice
straight
bar. She's got a cool truck. Like, she's doing fine.
Yeah, she's gone straight from her life of crime. She doesn't want to get back into it. She doesn't express any regrets or anything like that about not still doing that. So yeah.
Nope.
So yeah, that was my second note was Malin Akerman just literally just bobs her head and laughs.
Yep.
And then Nic Cage heist, because I don't think we've had a Nic Cage heist in any of these movies, really. Well, I guess Dog Eat Dog had some stuff like that, but it wasn't really, I wouldn't call it a heist because it wasn't really well thought out.
Right.
You know, his character was kind of an idiot. Not an idiot, but like he doesn't plan things out. He's just very spur of the moment in that movie. In this movie, everything's planned out.
Yeah. I think
so it's more traditional heist.
Yeah.
You know, when I think heist, I think like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Halloween heist type thing where they plan this stuff out for months.
Mm-hmm.
And that definitely seemed to be more the case in this movie. Well, so I think this is the first true heist.
We see Nick do some heists in like, National Treasure, of course, Gone in 60 Seconds.
Well, we haven't watched those on the show.
No, but like, so he is known to do them.
This is our first one on the show that we've seen.
Yeah.
So then I don't even remember where specifically this happened, but so they're robbing a vault of a bank. They go through the wall of a toy store, I think, to get into the vault of a bank, where there's a bunch of gold that's like got a chain link fence in the middle of this vault for some reason, blocking it from the rest of the, like nobody can, if you can get into this vault, you won't be able to get through that chain link fence. But there's just like 3 blocks of money in this vault. And that's it, other than the gold on the other side of the chain link fence.
Apparently it was $10 million worth of cash.
$10 million worth of cash, but it's literally like 3 12 by 12 bricks.
Yeah, it's one duffel bag.
Yes, easily fits in one duffel bag. And they're being watched by the FBI, I think it is.
Yes.
Well, all this is going on, and the FBI is like, "Oh, we got it, we got to get in," and they don't realize that they're in the wrong spot for a while. Like they think that they're being
because they thought that they were hitting the jewelry store that's next to the toy store.
A diamond store, or whatever,
But they're not. They're hitting the bank on the opposite side of the block.
Right, so they all went to the wrong place, and then they're all like driving around the block. I guess it was maybe faster. I don't know. All the police get in their cars and make it an emergency to all drive really fast around the block. And when they get over there, I guess the bank door was closed, and so instead of like breaking a window because it's all glass or anything like
glass.
that, they just chain it up to like one of their armored transport vehicles and rip the door off the hinges for some reason. It took way longer.
There's even a line that's like, it doesn't have to be pretty. You just need to open it. And I'm like,
and that's their solution.
Glass, man.
This is the FBI. They don't have something that can break basic glass on the front of a bank.
Well, I will say this. This movie does not make the FBI look good.
No. It does also not make heisters look good, like bank robbers.
Everybody just looks awful.
Yeah, really bad. And then we get the first Fast and the Furious scene of the movie. And I say Fast and the Furious scene sarcastically.
I think you're skipping over like the crux of the film.
Oh God, yes. Okay.
All right. So when Vincent and Will, Nick's character, are the ones who are actually going in the vault. And as they're leaving, there's like some poor janitor guy in the alley, and he's seen their faces. So Vincent wants to kill him, and Will doesn't do homicide, he says. And so they have a confrontation, and Vincent ends up getting shot in his own leg. It's unclear to me if he did it or if Nick did it, or if
the way I saw it was that the crazy guy had his hand on the gun and his finger on the trigger.
That's Vincent.
And when Nic Cage's character moved his hand down away from the guy, it like made him pull the trigger essentially.
Gotcha.
So he blames Nic Cage's character for it, but when in reality it was his finger on the trigger.
Right.
He's just trying to pull the gun.
Random janitor guy.
Right.
So Will drags Vincent all the way to the getaway van, realizes he forgot the money, so he's got to run back and get the money, and then Hoyt, drives off because for some reason he's driving instead of Riley, because even though she's the getaway driver.
Allegedly, yeah. We never see her drive, so whatever.
She pulls the van into the parking garage.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, good point.
So we know she can drive at that point.
So yeah, he drags him back to the van, and then he realizes that he forgot the money. God, you're a bank robber that forgot the money, and so he has to run back. Yeah, he has to run back to where the money was, which is like 50 feet away. And instead of waiting for him, they just drive off and leave him. And so he goes and punches a cop, which he does in a lot of these movies, turns out, and steals the cop car, which, okay, and this is where the first Fast and the Furious scene begins. And I call them Fast and the Furious scenes because I'm a sarcastic person.
No.
This is not like a Cop Crown Vic. It's like a 1995 Mercury Marquis or something like that with like cop lights and stickers on it. And it every chase scene, and there's several in this movie, they're very slow. People, this is way off topic for this movie, but there was the show Book of Boba Fett came out last year, and everybody was harping on this one chase scene in the movie because you got these like land speeders that look super fast, and the scene is filmed in a way that makes it look like it's supposed to be fast, but they're actually moving super slow. Mm-hmm. And that's what I felt like with this, because it's like all action cuts and like things like that, but the car looks like you can see it passing other cars. It's going like 35 miles an hour. I mean, it's horrible. And eventually he like gets stuck in this parking garage where like a bunch of homeless people are hanging out, I guess. And there's like burn barrels and stuff.
I think that was a building that was like condemned or under construction.
Yeah, and homeless people were living in it. And there's burn barrels in it and whatnot, which comes into play later. But you see him like basically get arrested, and that's where that was the prologue to set up for the rest of the movie. And in this moment, I went, "Did he hide the money?" I wrote that as a note. And then you find out literally like 4 seconds later, because it shows him like talking to the cops, getting out of jail, saying they're going to find the money or whatever. And I put yes right after that. He did hide the money, in fact.
Did you ever see the movie Blue Streak?
I did, with Martin Lawrence, where he hides the giant diamond in a like vent.
Yeah, in a building that's under construction, and it turns out to be a police
station. Yeah.
I had that thought where I was like, I wonder, like, are they going to Blue Streak this? Yeah, it ends up being a jewelry store or something.
I'd much rather watch that movie, to be honest. Hope you got what does this even say? Oh, one of the guys, sorry, my handwriting, when I'm trying to write these notes, I mean, you should see me. I'm like, I have like a huge thought in my head, and I'm like trying to watch the movie, and I'm scribbling these notes down, and they get real bad. Like, we're gonna auction this journal off on eBay when we're through this podcast, and somebody can see how bad these notes are and see if you can decipher them. But
piece of history.
Yeah. So one of these cops that was in the prologue chasing him, not the main one, but like the side cop,
Fletcher, played by Mark Valley.
I have his name here.
Yeah,
he
Fletcher
tells Nic Cage that he hopes he got raped every day.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was that. I don't think that was okay to say in 2012 or like funny. It's not funny now either. Like that, because like, or okay.
Look, like these guys are like bank and jewelry store robbers. Like,
yeah, they're not murderers. You know, like, and even I wouldn't even say that to a murderer. Like, that's not something to ever say to anybody.
It's
really.
Not. It's a bad look. Like that's what I was saying. Like the FBI looks as bad as the criminals throughout most of this movie.
Yeah, that was the one line I'll say. I think that was the only line I quoted in my notes for this movie because it was just so bad. So yeah, I had that note in there that said "Not okay, Fletcher." And then we get a scene. Well, there's some stuff that happens, right? He gets picked up by the police or the FBI. I mean,
yeah.
And when he gets out of jail, and they basically try and intimidate him into saying, "We're going to find out where you put this money. We know you hid this money, whatever." And they take him and drop him off at his ex-wife's house.
But most importantly, Will finds out that Vincent has died while Will was in prison.
Right. Vincent died while he was in prison.
Yeah, he fell
Nothing
into a wrong
suspicious
crowd.
about that. We get 3 people telling him that over the next 5 minutes. So, it must be really important. I'm sure he's actually dead. So then we get a scene where he goes to, I think it's his ex-wife's house with his daughter.
And by the way, I do want to point out that the FBI doesn't notice at any point that this random cab has followed them this entire way.
Right. Yeah. It's New Orleans. Apparently there's a lot of cabs there. I don't know.
But these are supposed to be FBI agents. Like, you don't notice if someone's tailing you.
Right. That's fair. Well, they were so focused on making rape jokes to him.
Right.
That takes a lot of focus. So then we get the scene with his daughter, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this was probably the best, maybe strongest scene in the movie for me. He was really good in this scene with his daughter.
Oh, at the coffee shop?
Was it at the coffee shop? I thought he was talking to her at the house.
Well, he does. They talk at the house for a little bit. And
yeah,
then,
it was basically both of those
okay.
scenes. And both the scenes where he was like genuinely interacting with his
Mhm.
daughter. And the girl that plays his daughter was really wonderful too.
Yeah, Sami Gayle.
But he was very good in this scene. He was better than he deserved to be in this movie, I think. Like that scene really stood out to me. I actually felt really bad for him in
Mhm.
that scene. So,
And I thought she was good too. Like I don't think I've seen her in anything else, but yeah, I thought that the two of them, it was a really good, realistic interaction for me. And I appreciated, like, so they did this teddy bear thing, which is, I guess, supposed to be a homage to Con Air since it's the same director. But he gets this teddy bear at like a bodega outside of, you know, the bus station, I guess. And he gives it to her, and she's like 15 or something now, you know, so it's a little awkward, but she kind of takes it. And it felt very realistic for those two people.
yes. Yeah, it did, given their circumstances and everything. Yeah, that was a really good scene. Doesn't make me want to recommend this movie to anybody anymore because that was basically the only scene where you got and felt like there was actually genuine emotions going on. But okay, so now that we met the daughter, my next note says, so now the daughter gets stolen and ransomed for 10 mil, question mark.
Immediately.
Yep. You nailed it. It was so predictable what was about to happen. And so, yes, the dude that was supposedly dead, big surprise. You're going to get this a lot in this movie, that you're told one thing, and yet the exact opposite thing happens with no explanation. And you're supposed to be like, whoa, twist. Whoa. But in reality, you're just like, okay. But yes, the Vincent guy is alive. And I know listeners are all surprised by this, so I'll give you a second to take it in.
He has seen better days.
Not only is he alive, he looks, my next note is comically bad. Like they went to the like FX people that do like the hair and makeup and everything, and they were like, one of everything.
God.
We're gonna give him a bad wig. We're gonna give him
dirty blonde hair.
Yeah, they're gonna give him like really bad facial aging that like makes him look like he's just been smoking for 40 years. They mess with every part of him to make him look like these last 8 years, because I think he was in prison for 8 years.
Yep.
Have just destroyed this guy, tore him apart, and you're led to believe that when they're talking about how he died or whatever, that it was because he owed money to the wrong people and he'd been getting in the wrong crowd, which is very believable given the like mustache twirling that he was not literally, because he didn't have a mustache, doing in the beginning of the movie. But yeah, he looked like a comically bad guy. He went through such a transformation in 8 years.
He did. Like the dude is like totally nuts. Like he cut off 3 of his own fingers to fake his death. He lost most of his leg from the bullet wound, and so, you know, he's got a prosthetic leg, he's missing his fingers, he's got the bad wig, and he's a cabbie. Legitimately, he's worked there for 2 years. He's just been waiting
just to set up for this moment.
Yeah, he's just been waiting. Could you imagine how different this movie would be if Will Montgomery had gotten out of prison on any other day of the year than Fat Tuesday?
I mean, yeah, it would have been a much different movie. We get a random scene right before this of him soundproofing the back of his cab. I mean, I guess we needed that because that might have been a major plot hole. Why can't anybody hear her screaming? And there are scenes of her screaming in the trunk, but like
that scene screamed to me as like that was picked up by people in like a screening.
Right. And they needed to add it because you never see any of the actors. You literally just see like somebody with a paint roller, like rolling on like liquid foam to insulate the back of it.
At first, I wasn't exactly sure what he was doing, and he throws like fake stars in the background in the trunk. I'm like,
yeah, it was very weird. He's like decorating it for her. I don't know what was going on there, but yeah, it definitely felt like an additional scene because people were like, "Well, why can't they hear? She's screaming in the trunk." Anyway, so then she gets stolen, I think, and Nic Cage's character is like running through the streets of Nolans.
Well, so what happens? So he gets a package that his daughter gives him that had been left off, and he goes to see Riley at her cop bar that she works at now, and the package starts ringing, and that's when he gets to talk to Vincent and finds out he's alive and he's taken his daughter.
Right, and so then he starts like running through the streets to try and find somebody or something. I can't imagine what at this point, but
that part was kind of unclear. Like he lies to Vincent about where the money is to buy himself time. Tuscaloosa. And he buys a burner phone that he forwards the other number to, which I was impressed that a guy who's been in prison for 8 years would have
knows how to do
that.
Yeah, that's true. Especially like during if it was 2012, like modern day when the movie takes place, that means he would have been in 2004.
So it's just flip phones, and now he's using like a BlackBerry.
Right.
Like he knows what he's doing.
And he knows how to forward it and everything.
When like I've listened to some interviews about people who like spent 5, 10, 15 years in prison, and they were saying like one of the hardest things to deal with is like the advancement of technology. Because it doesn't really advance for you while you're in prison most of the time, right? So like that. Whatever, but that's supposed to paint the picture that he's this brilliant guy. Well, and he also of the operation.
Vincent also tells him, "You have 8 rings to answer, or something like that, or else I'm going to kill your daughter immediately." And so that's why he did the forwarding from the other burner phone to the whatever. From one phone to the other.
They're tracking the package phone. So he throws this on a train that he gets to Tuscaloosa to buy himself time to do other stuff while they think he's on the train.
Right. And so then he starts like running through the streets at some point. I don't know if this was before or after the train, and the FBI people see him and they're like, "Well, we gotta get him." For some reason, he hadn't done anything as far as you can tell.
So this kind of bothered me because like, now look, I guess I don't know what the FBI does to people who get out of prison after they've been in prison.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it would be legal to just be like tailing somebody without probable cause.
Not even just tailing. They're like actively chasing this dude down. They're assaulting other people to follow Will.
Right.
Like it again, like the FBI comes off like its own villain.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Yeah, and of course they're in New Orleans and it's Fat Tuesday or whatever, and so he finds a mask on the streets and puts it on, and then instantly it's like Assassin's Creed. If you've ever played those games, you look totally different than everybody else, but if you just press the triangle button when people are walking by, then you're magically hidden. Mm-hmm. And so my next note was, man, how do police do anything during Mardi Gras? That you just put on a mask and then magically you disappear into the crowd.
It's such a important crux of the plot though, because it comes up constantly. We see the parade multiple times. They talk about the traffic jams constantly in this movie, right?
You see them pretty regularly,
right? It just becomes a whole thing throughout the movie. It's referenced. And so like if he had gotten out of prison on any other day,
it would have been a much different movie.
Completely different movie.
Okay. So I lied earlier when I said that was the only line that I had quoted in this. I don't remember who said it. I think maybe it was Fletcher. Maybe you can remind me. Somebody says he's a clever tree frog.
No, that's Harland. So,
okay, Harland. Yeah. Why? Like it has no relevance to anything that happens anywhere in this movie. Why a tree frog?
I don't know enough about trees.
And nobody comments on it. Nobody thinks it's weird.
Well, because Harland's got this strange obsession. He even uses the word admiration. He says he admires Will to Fletcher because Fletcher doesn't understand why Harland's like giving him the time of day, and he admires Will Montgomery. And so I assume there's something relevant about a tree frog. I don't know enough about tree frogs.
I mean, I like tree frogs. I know a little bit about them, but I don't really know what the comparison there is. Like meant what I don't. Anyway, it was a really weird comment. Nobody says anything about it. So I guess in this area, it's like a common thing. I don't really know, but it was, as somebody that lives in Kansas City, that was a weird thing to say. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a regional thing. I don't know. So then we get Nic Cage's FBI break-in, which isn't really a break-in so much as it is just like a walk-in and then punch somebody and steal their ID.
Well, so first he goes in to ask for help. He goes to Harlan to tell Harlan, this is what's happening. Please help me find my daughter. And Harlan and Fletcher think he's lying. They think he's lying because he's trying to get his money, and he's trying to lie about the money and all that. And that's where you find out that Will burned the money in one of those burn pits, or burn barrels, excuse me, earlier in the movie. And they don't believe him because, of course, he would lie about that to get get to his money and all that. And
but
so,
also when he was asking him for help, it's never really clear if he is actually being genuine or if he just wanted to get into have a reason to be at the FBI without being suspicious so that he could get the information.
I think it was genuine. I think
it's kind of left to interpretation, though.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think
he's shown to be a manipulative and clever guy, so it's not like it's out of character that he would just do that.
I agree, but
I agree with you too. By the way, I do think he was being genuine, but it is a little ambiguous.
I mean, I think we're supposed to lean on everything he said after he gets out, where like he really like he's going to be straight. He wants to do this for his daughter. He wants to have a relationship with her. You know, like that's the one thing in his life that he cares about at this point. So I do think like he immediately was like, who do I know who could help? And he went straight to Harlan.
Yeah.
Because the truth is he didn't have to go into Harlan's office if he was just going to do what he ended up doing.
Right.
Right. I think he made himself aware there, which he didn't have to do. I think he really wanted Harlan's help because Harlan mentions that he's got kids, right? When he arrests Will, he's like, you know, my wedding day, the birth of my twins, and today. The highlights, Will, you know, like that's like a thing that he says when he's arresting him. And so I think Will is trying to, you know, plead to Harlan and be as a father and be like, help me, my daughter's in trouble. And the FBI being the crack shot group that they are in this
throughout this whole movie. Yeah.
Are just like, nah, you're lying.
Yeah, pretty much. So then when he's on his way out after not getting help, he goes into the elevator where there's a couple other FBI people and he immediately punches them both unconscious and steals their IDs. Oh, was one of them Fletcher? Yeah. Oh, yeah, one of them was Fletcher. Yeah, he punches the shit out of both of them and handcuffs them to a rail that's in the elevator for some reason. And then, it worked out well. And then takes their ID to go find out about the cab company or something. I can't remember exactly.
Well, he was looking up a couple of things. So he looks up Vincent to kind of get more information about his death. And then he looks up Hoyt, which was the other person on their 4-person team when they did the break-in.
The guy that drove away despite not being the getaway driver.
Yes.
So then I think it's Vincent makes a comment about how something is the best thing that's happened in New Orleans since Katrina.
Oh, yeah. He did say something. What was it?
I don't remember exactly what the reference was, but I thought that was really tasteless, too. There's a lot of, like, weird tasteless. And I get that you're supposed to establish that these are bad guys, but I feel like there's got to be a better way to do it than making comments about rape and that Katrina was good.
Well, that's the thing. Like, at this point, we know Vincent's a bad guy, like, right?
Just look at him.
He faked his own death. He cut off his own fingers to do it. He's kidnapped this innocent teenager, you know, to get over on his partner who could have ratted him out, you know, when he went to trial and didn't, right? So I feel pretty, and this dude just wanted to kill a random janitor in an alley. Like I'm fine believing Vincent's a bad guy without making like bad Katrina references. Like people died, like real people died.
You know? Yeah. And real people get raped. And neither of those things are fun to be joking about, in my opinion.
Well, and the rape thing that's Fletcher. He's an FBI agent.
Right. That's the least professional thing you could possibly say.
Right. It's awful.
Yeah. And so my next note is that all the action scenes are real bad. Lots of cuts. Like you never really actually see a complete movement all together. It's just like there's cuts throughout every single like fight scene or anything. I don't know why a lot of these like small budget films with Nic Cage do this.
I think just because they don't.
Maybe because stunt teams are expensive. Yeah. I don't know, but
stunt and choreography, right? You have to have a choreographer who knows what they're doing. And...
Well, the stunt people a lot of times are also
that's
part
fair.
Of the choreography, but in any case, that must be where they cut the corners for these movies because they're always like super cut filled, real bad. We don't have to dig into it too far, but that's it's something.
It is. There is a funny moment though. So when he goes to see Hoyt, he's arguing with Hoyt. They're fighting each other, right? And he finds out Hoyt's the one who's been tracking the phone and everything. And the FBI is just outside the door. Like 20 guys are just sitting there, their guns pointed at this door. And Harlan's just like, I forget exactly how he phrased it. He's like, let the squabble or something.
Yeah, and then one of them pulls out a shotgun and starts shooting it, and they still don't go in.
He's like, wait.
Yeah, wait until you see the whites of their eyes.
Hold.
And then that's my next note, actually, police murder, because as soon as they open the door, or as soon as the door gets open, I think I don't remember who opened it, actually.
Hoyt
opened it, okay. And then he immediately gets gunned down.
Well, so To the FBI's credit here, Hoyt opens the door holding the shotgun after there's been gunfire, and he does start to raise the gun. Now, did they have to shoot him, several times in the chest? Probably not.
I wasn't saying that they were wrong for shooting him by any means, but they definitely just straight up killed him and shoot first, ask questions later type scenario.
But that buys Will enough time to jump out of the window.
It does, yes, which he does. And my next note is neck injection.
Yeah, so Vincent keeps injecting some chemical into Allison, the daughter, into her neck to like knock her out.
To be honest, that's like a trope in movies and TV shows that I'm really okay with just like not happening anymore. I feel like a lot of these things you can inject anywhere and they'll kick in pretty quick if it's like a specific drug. Then I get that the neck is like closer to the brain, but whatever. I'm just like overseeing needles go into people's necks.
Yeah, he does it at least twice, maybe 3 times. And it just doesn't even seem necessary because it's like, you already got her like in the trunk, man. Like,
right. What more do you need?
What
are you trying to do? What are you trying to prove at this point? My next note, which is probably 10 or 13 scenes later, I don't really remember, is slowest fast taxi scene ever. Because it's our next Fast and the Furious scene where somebody's getting away from somebody in a taxi. I don't even remember. It's probably Vincent.
Well, no, because so Will steals a cab to find out more about Vincent. That happens. And it's just really funny because like nobody wants to believe Will. No matter what's going on, no matter if there's a gun in your face, everyone's like, this is a lie. And so, yeah, which is just, I don't know if that's meant to be funny, but it comes off a little funny in the cab scene because the cab driver who's got like a gun to his face thinks Will is like joking.
Yeah, messing with him. Yeah, that is a pretty common thing in this movie, and the movie would have been much shorter if people just believed him.
Right.
But if the FBI just believed him in that first part of the movie, then instantly, like, the movie would have been over in 10 minutes. They would have just contacted the cab company, who probably has GPS in all their all their vehicles.
So they do fix a couple of things with that. So Vincent took the GPS out of his cab and put it in the trunk of a different cab.
That's right.
And put his number on that other cab.
Yeah, I do remember
Will finds that at some point. We get no explanation for why this cab driver was okay with any of that happening because he's aware of it. So like,
yeah, it is weird. Like, he was probably just like, oh no, the guy's a good guy. Let's just let him sabotage me and possibly get me killed.
Right. It just seems wild, but they do that because like I do get kind of mad towards the end of the film when so the feds go to the cab place and find out that this is actually Vincent. They find out that Will's right. Vincent's still alive. And rather than be like, okay, let's find the girl, they go, okay, Will's going to steal more money. Let's go stop him.
Right.
Right. Their priority is to stop Will from stealing money, not stop Vincent from killing a 15-year-old.
Right.
That's
and they arrest him. They arrest Will. I don't remember what for, but he does that classic like thumb break to get out of the handcuffs, which is you've seen in every movie that ever has somebody handcuffed in it. They apparently breaking your thumb allows you to immediately escape any handcuffs. And my next note is that there's so much answering of unknown calls in this movie.
Yeah, everybody answers unknown calls.
It was specifically on multiple occasions shows a phone ringing and it says unknown, and everybody answers it every time. Nic Cage's character, Malin Akerman's character, all of them answer unknown calls constantly. And I don't, maybe I'm alone in this, but if I see unknown call, I never answer it if it's important to leave a message.
No, it's super weird. Like, to an extent, I get Will doing it because like it was in this package and he's just out of prison, but why is Riley doing it?
Yeah.
Right.
That's
like,
a good question.
That doesn't make any sense. But he's arrested and he does the thumb thing and everything, right? And he causes a giant wreck that flips the car he's in and an SUV.
Yeah.
And like, he's fine.
Right. Of course he is.
He's totally fine.
Also, at some point, I don't think we brought this up, the daughter in the trunk rips out a bunch of foam the soundproofing foam and like now has a clear view of like the driver and the outside of the cab and never does anything with that.
Well, no,
she tries to get the cell phone.
Yeah, because she's trying. So there's that Australian guy that he gets forced to pick up. And like, man, who would have thought that Vincent would pick up another character that's even more annoying than Vincent? Who would have thought that that was going to happen?
Yeah.
But he does. And she's trying to poke her finger through the seat to get the attention of this guy, this Australian dude. And it doesn't work. She can't reach him. But he drops his phone. So she's trying to dial from the phone. Somehow she knows how to dial 911 blindly on a BlackBerry that's sliding around.
But doesn't know how to press the green button to actually call it.
But whatever, right? And so she never gets to actually press call. And so nothing ever comes of that.
Right.
You know, the tail light trick works because she disconnects the brake light.
She does disconnect a brake light at some point and the car gets pulled over and they say you got a brake light out. And of course, then he murders the cop, I think, or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
That pulled him over. Because why wouldn't he? But yeah, like I thought at some point maybe she would try screaming through this crack because now it's clearly not soundproof. She can, you know, put her mouth right up to it and yell and people will hear. But she never does that.
I think that's how she gets the cop's attention though, right? Because the cop pulls him over and then
he says to open the trunk.
Right.
And then he gets shot immediately.
And she almost gets away.
Yeah. And so that's when she gets a second neck injection. But yeah, so then Nic Cage escapes, obviously, because he wrecked this car and is able to get away and already got his handcuffs off. Mm-hmm. And so he goes to Malin Akerman and says, I need you to help me with this because they're going to kill my daughter. And of course, because she's the sweetest person on the planet, she says yes. And his grand plan is to go through the sewers, I think, up underneath the bank vault that they saw that was protected only by chain link and melt a bunch of the gold into a bucket of water, like cut a hole in the floor and then put so much heat through there that you're melting the gold, catching it in this bucket of water. And then she's pulling out the cool chunks of gold and putting it into a bag.
And I do want to point out, so I watched this on Freevee and the key art that they used was a shot from the two of them in the sewers where he's using his laser measuring tool to measure distances.
Which was from a job site, apparently.
Yeah. What I love about that, though, is the shot that they use, like it's got the laser and everything, certainly made it look like it was supposed to be a weapon of some kind in the screen grab.
It's literally just a measuring device.
It's a measuring tape.
I actually have one of those. Yeah, and it doesn't shoot out a really cool laser light like that. So
it'd be great it'd be more useful if it did, because it's hard to use those outside.
It is, yeah. You know? It's hard to use those just in general for me. I'm not very good with them. But yeah, so they go to a job site before they go to do this major heist and steal literally any tool that they needed to do this specific heist. They are able to get for free from this like abandoned, or not abandoned, but probably closed. I don't know. Construction workers aren't working there overnight, so they just leave all their tools there for them.
I was on the fence about whether or not that was found equipment or stashed equipment.
It just shows the job site. There's nothing showing that they like stashed this ahead of time.
Right.
So I'm assuming, just like you assumed that he was being genuine in the other scene, I'm assuming that this was not stashed and they literally just stole all this shit from the job site. But whatever, they get all their shit, they go and melt all this gold. Not all of it. There's like 20 piles of gold in this room, and they have this one pile that they're just melting the middle part of, which is apparently enough to pay $10 million. I don't know. Gold's expensive, I guess.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And then I think my next note is showdown at an amusement park. So I guess they run to an amusement park after this.
Yeah, so that's where Vincent, it's a fairgrounds, closed down fairgrounds. And that's where Vincent's holding Allison, and Will has to take the gold there. And Riley is like, you know, sending the FBI off on a wild goose chase. Right. And then there's another truck that Will has. We have no explanation of where that truck came from. And yeah, he goes and he meets Vincent and they have the big climactic showdown while the cops are trying to bust the bank robber and not the kidnapper.
Yes. And I put a note here that says this dude is all villain, no redeeming qualities, which I thought maybe beyond the like looking like a villain at the beginning and acting like a villain, that maybe at some point in the movie we would have something to make him a sympathetic villain. We would find out some bit of backstory or something that would make him a little more relatable. But no, he's literally Rasputin. You can poison him, stab him, shoot him, burn him, and he's going to live through it.
And he does for most of that.
My next note is Aquaman out of nowhere because you think he's dead. Well, he's like,
wait, you don't want to skip over the flaming car ramp jump, right?
They lock him in the trunk, I think, right?
Allison. And then so Allison's in the trunk.
Oh, okay, and he's in the car, and they jump it, and it's on fire.
The car's on fire because Vincent set the car on fire.
But he's in it.
No, Vincent's not in the car. So what happens is Vincent has already poured gasoline all over the trunk of the car with Allison in it. And Vincent wants to hurt Will by taking, and this is what Vincent says, by taking away the only thing, you took away the only thing that I loved, which was me. So I'm going to take away the only thing you love. And then he lights the car on fire. And then the two of them, Will and Vincent, wrestle and they fight each other. And
meanwhile, his
Will
daughter's
gets shot in the
trunk.
stomach. Yeah, she's, being burned. And then Will gets in the car and drives the car off the side
ramp into the water, thinking that that'll put out the fire, which it will,
does, I guess.
But it's still kind of on fire while it's like sinking.
Jesus. And so he's trying to open the trunk and he can't because, equal pressures.
Doesn't he do something that makes you think Vincent might be dead right before this? Like
Vincent's on fire.
Yeah. So, he's on fire. So
on the pier, he's on the deck. He's up on fire. So you think,
okay, he's done.
Mm-hmm.
But then when Nic Cage's character is trying to get his daughter out of the trunk, this is why I said Aquaman out of nowhere. This shirtless, horrible, like scarred villain looking guy comes out of the water and just like starts fighting him. It's like this horrible. This is another surprise reveal you get in the movie.
Have you ever seen the original Friday the 13th?
Probably, but it's been a while.
It reminded me of the final shot of the movie where the movie's over and they're sitting on the rowboat in the lake, and then Jason jumps out of the water with his disgusting body, right?
Right. That's basically what it was.
Like that.
Yeah. And then he like stabs him with a like pipe or something.
Some kind of metal rod, yeah.
Yeah. And you think he's dead because it shows him like off the side of the screen. And then he's alive again. Yeah, and so my next note is this dude refuses to die.
Mm-hmm. Until he gets locked in the trunk of the sinking car underwater. And then I suppose he's dead.
We think he's dead, but who knows? Rasputin couldn't be killed by drowning, so maybe he couldn't either. I don't know. But then Nic Cage's character is very obviously dying. The FBI people come over to try and help him finally. And they like get in an ambulance with him or in
a helicopter.
A helicopter. And he is dying. He dies right then. You see him stop breathing in front of all these guys.
Well,
and
because Allison asks Harlan, she's like, "Are you going to arrest my dad?" And he goes, "Why? It's obvious that Vincent
did all this." Yeah, like now all of a sudden he's on his side. But quite clearly, there's no reason for Nic Cage to fake it or his character to fake it at this point, right? No reason for him to fake dying.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm setting up anything in the next note, but there's no reason for him to fake dying at this point.
Can we all agree?
The only people that can see him right now are his daughter and the two FBI agents.
Yeah.
So, but then he dies. You see him die. Stop moving, stop breathing. And then in the next scene, so I put big twist, fake. Oh, Nic Cage dies at the end again. And then I went, nope, fake death, big twist, because immediately you see him in the next scene with Malin Akerman. I guess they're married or something now. They're like living together.
They're just chilling, man. They're hanging out.
And there was somehow they measured out 1 pound of gold was missing from the melted gold. And the two FBI agents are still harassing this guy. So this leads to the question of, they know he's not dead. Right?
Yeah.
Because they're still watching him. Who did he put on that performance for?
The only thing I can come up with is that he didn't actually die. He just kind of passed out from blood loss.
He stopped breathing.
his breath had slowed. They had to do
Oh my
CPR.
God.
I don't know, but obviously he's not fooling Harland and Fletcher because they're
Does
watching
CPR
from the
help
boat.
when you have like a giant gaping wound in your stomach? I feel like you're just pushing more blood out.
Dude, I have no idea.
I'm not a paramedic,
But do Harland and Fletcher not have any other cases
they
to
have
work
no
on?
other cases because even after his quote unquote death, he's with Malin Akerman and they're just like hanging out, talking. They have like one of those big supersonic hearing things. Like it looks like a satellite dish pointed at them, and they're way out on a boat on this like probably the same pier they just jumped off of in the flaming car. And there's probably the dudes. I thought the dude was going to come out of the water alive again, Vincent, and get him, but they're listening to this conversation because they're trying to find this 1 pound of gold. It was $10 million before. Now it's 1 pound of gold out of 10 that he stole.
Can you believe that he got the exact right amount of gold?
One exact pound. But yeah, so they're listening to him and it sounds like they're talking about the gold. And so, there's some confliction between like Nic Cage's character.
Pounds.
Well, they stole 10 pounds.
No. They stole way more than 10 pounds. They stole the whole duffel bag.
Oh, maybe it was 10 pounds. Whatever. It was like one nugget, like fist-sized nugget.
It was pretty big.
I guess. It was like the size of a large pine cone. No spoilers. But
what? No.
Yes, because okay. I said no spoilers, but I'm about to spoil it. We
spoiled the whole movie here.
They throw a large pine cone into the water.
But that thing's concrete. It's like a stone statue piece.
Of a pine cone.
Yeah, but not a real one. It's not like actual size.
Yeah, so they're talking about this gold and like, oh, we should just throw it in the water. That'd be the right thing to do. Blah, blah, blah. Because they know the FBI is listening.
And Harland and Fletcher both have different opinions. Harland wants him to throw it. Fletcher wants him to not throw it so he can
arrest him. Yeah. And so he like walks out to the water like he's going to throw it and then he doesn't. And then she's like, do you want that weighing on your conscience? Like nothing else weighing on his conscience is going to be a problem, but this will be. And then he throws something into the water. And
the FBI
big twist.
Are happy.
They're happy, and it's not the gold because it shows like a spray painted gold rock right after this. It's definitely not actual gold or like even a prop made to look like gold. It's just a rock that somebody took some gold spray paint to, and it like pans up from the water and shows this gold nugget, and that's how the movie ends.
It is.
I'm not joking. That's it.
No, that's the end of the movie.
Really
then there's a really long credit sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole movie, man.
That's the movie. Yeah,
that is the whole movie.
We watched it so you don't have to. But if you want to, I'm sure you'll regret it too.
Fair enough.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a whole lot else to say about it.
Oh, I guess I did want to, there was a couple things I wanted to talk about that I didn't really have a note for. I don't think that Mardi Gras in New Orleans was necessarily the best setting for this movie. I don't think it really added a ton to this movie. First of all, I don't remember, I've only been to New Orleans once, but I don't remember there being that many cabs running through New Orleans all the time. That seems like something they set up for the movie. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just like went to it during a time when there wasn't a lot of cabs there. I feel like a place like New York or LA or someplace where cabs are notorious for being on every corner, would have been a better location.
Yeah, I mean, apparently, according to IMDb, the majority of the taxi cabs, however, were real local taxis. The taxi cabs that did volunteer for the service were mostly independently owned and not fleet taxis, as the majority of them had advertising signs on the roof.
Okay.
So,
I still think plot-wise, in terms of the movie, when I think of a movie that uses a taxi as a main plot point, I would not pick New Orleans as the place for that movie to take place. Maybe that's just me.
No, I agree. And it's interesting because, Zonderlei takes place in New Orleans as well. So we've watched 2 Nic Cage movies now that take place in New Orleans.
And he only had an accent in one of them. So that's fun.
You can guess which one.
Yeah. Not this one. You don't have to guess now.
No.
Okay.
But that's it. That's the movie, man. That's the whole
that's
movie.
it. That was really, the taxi thing kind of bothered me, but yeah, that was really the only like overarching plot point where I was like, this doesn't make that much sense to me. But well, that's the only really big plot point that did make sense to me. There was some other stuff that was like obviously very questionable, but
yeah, I mean, it just kind of got worse and worse as the movie goes on.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm hoping this one was direct to video and not actually released in theaters, but I have a feeling it made like $8 million in theaters or something.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't actually look because we don't usually care too much about that on this show.
Well, all these movies, I always look at the IMDb and then I'm like, wow, this one made $6.3 million on a $20 million budget or something like that. It's like, no wonder, man. Who paid to see this?
God, the tagline: 12 hours, $10 million, one kidnapped daughter.
And a train to Tuscaloosa.
A train to Tuscaloosa. Oh, man. Box office. Here we go. The budget was approximately 35 million. And worldwide, it grossed 17.4 million.
Okay, so I was off. But it still did really, that's a bomb. We consider that a bomb in the biz.
Here's what's interesting. Only $304,000 were US and Canada.
Wow. So China really loved this
somebody
movie.
Liked it, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, I don't know. I guess that maybe they didn't get the real Taken movie in China or something, and so they were like, this movie is awesome.
That would do it, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's really funny.
Yeah, but I guess we should probably rate this thing, huh?
Yeah, let's do it. So we rate each movie on two different scales, overall quality and overall caginess. Both are 0 to 20, with 0 being low and 20 being high. So Ryan, let's go with quality. Where would you rate the overall quality of Stolen?
I don't know. I kind of want to hear where you're at, but I feel like I'm between like a 4 and a 5. It wasn't the worst movie we reviewed by any means, and it was somewhat entertaining, but it was not good.
Here's where things get tough, right? Because I start looking back at the other movies we've done, and I start thinking, well, this is better than that. This is worse than that. And I start questioning some of our scores from before. Like, would you put this above Dying of the Light?
I don't even remember Dying of the Light, so I'd probably put it equivalent to Dying of the Light.
That was the Anton Yelchin one where...
Oh, no, I'd say it's probably about the same.
About the same. Okay. Well, we both gave that a 6.
Okay, so yeah, it's not that far off.
You're giving this a 5?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. I want to do a little bit better than that because I definitely thought it was more entertaining than Dying of the Light. I think it was not as silly as Next.
Right.
But it was better than Inconceivable, and more watchable than Cotton Club. So I'm going to give it an 8.
Wow. Okay. We have a big difference on this one.
A little bit. So that brings it to what? A 7?
Yeah,
6.5? 6.5.
Yeah.
6.5. Okay. So a 6.5 on overall quality. Now we got to do caginess.
Yeah, let's hear your score on caginess.
There's not much caginess in here. You know, like he doesn't really do anything particularly wild or crazy. He's a fairly toned down character. He's fairly level-headed. You don't really see him go off, you know, other than of course the fight scene, but that's not really caginess. Right. So I want to put that fairly low, maybe like a 2.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay.
It's just not cagey at all. Like
right?
they hired Cage and then didn't use like his greatest strengths.
Right.
They did get the one scene where it was like really good acting, but that was not cagey at all in general, at least by our definition of cagey.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that gives it a 6.5 on quality and a 2 on caginess. So there you go.
That sounds about right.
If you want to see where this lies, where it falls with the rest of our Nicolas Cage movies, make sure you follow us on social media and check out our Cage-O-meter to find out where it lands on that. So next, what we got to do is we have to figure out what movie is going to join the Wheel O Cage. So, you know, each week we spin our wheel, or each time we spin our wheel and we pick, you know, a new movie. But of course, we have to add something to our wheel, and the movie that's going to join the wheel is Gone in 60 Seconds.
That's a fun one. I haven't seen that since I was a kid, so I'll be excited to see that one.
It's been a long time. I've been looking forward to watching that one, but who knows when it's going to come up on the wheel. So you'll have to follow us to see the Wheel O Cage and find out what movie we're talking about next. Go to comingofcage.com for all of that social media goodness, our Cage-O-meter, the Wheel O Cage, other episodes on your podcast app of choice. Ryan, anything else you'd like to add tonight?
Yeah, earlier I said you could watch this movie if you wanted to, and that you'd regret it, but you probably just shouldn't watch it. I take that back.
Fair enough. Well, Ryan, Happy New Year, man.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to all of our listeners. Thank you so much for joining us in the new year.
Yes, we love both of you.
We do. We love all of the ones of you.
Yes, the single digits. You're all great.
But hey, if you're out there, come say hi.
We appreciate you.
We're out there too. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll catch you next time.